Hello, folks. Welcome to the second episode of the Blue Dugout Podcast. Before we get into this episode, I would just like to give a quick shout out to everybody who showed support to the first episode. It was my first time doing it, and I'm glad that everybody enjoyed it. Give some likes on it, give some comments if you guys feel any feedback or anything that I said that may have been mixed up or anything like that. Here we are at episode 2, so let's get into it. We've got the Dodgers versus the Chicago Cubs in none other than Chavez Ravine, Dodger Stadium. You know, it was a pretty good matchup all the way through. Unfortunately, it's another series lost by the Dodgers. Really didn't look too good in this one either in terms of bats. Pitching actually looked a lot better. But let's jump right into it. We got game 1 and we got our starting 9. At the top, we've got Ohtani at DH, Betts at shortstop, Teoscar Hernandez in right field. Freddie Freeman makes his return at first base, Tommy Edman at second base, Will Smith behind the plate. We got Michael Conforto in left field, Andy Pages in center field, and we've got Miguel Rojas at third base. Now it looks like Max Muncy is just not having it. In terms of the Washington series, we saw a couple of those missed at bats that he had where he could have had opportunities to get guys in and unfortunately missed it. So looks like he has to miss a game. On the mound for the Dodgers, we've got none other than the Japanese sensation from 2024, the man that we signed for $325 million, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. He's off to the best start of any Dodger pitcher right now with a record of 1-1 and an ERA starting this game at 1.69. So Yoshinobu Yamamoto, in my opinion, had the most phenomenal start of his career in general. Of course, he had that beautiful start in the World Series in 2024 Game 2, but this one was very, very, very special. He was just lights out the entire way, was just not letting anything big happen. If he was giving up hits, it was just ground balls to guys to make plays. It wasn't anything too crazy. Keeping the ball down, spotting pitches, getting guys to guess. He was even very comfortable with pitches that he usually doesn't throw, such as his slider, his curveball. That splitter was absolutely nasty, just striking guys out left and right, getting guys guessing, getting guys looking, getting guys swinging. He faces Matthew Boyd. Now, Matthew Boyd gets the start for the Cubs, and in his last 2 starts, has not allowed a run in 11 innings. That is pretty damn good as well. So we've got another good pitcher going up against a very good pitcher as well. These two guys just duked it out all the way through. I mean, Matthew Boyd was a phenomenal pitcher for the Cubs, kept us scoreless for 6 innings until, of course, we had that big hit from Tommy Edman. So we get this game going, and once again, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, just a phenomenal performance from this guy. Lights out all the way through 3. Through 3 innings, he was absolutely perfect. Did not allow, once again, anything really big to happen. No big hits. Nothing like that until, of course, Kyle Tucker comes up for the Chicago Cubs. Now, Kyle Tucker is their best hitter right now, has the highest batting average. He, in fact, finished that game with a .317 average. Comes up to the plate and puts a double down the line. This is the first hit that Yoshinobu Yamamoto gives up, ends up getting on second base. Just putting on the performance he usually does. Once again, the Cubs' best hitter right now. Suzuki comes up, gets a base knock to the right side. Teoscar Hernandez with that strong arm hitting the cutoff man and gets Suzuki right in the middle between Freeman and Betts. Betts running him down and doing a great job of keeping his eye on Tucker, making sure that he's not going anywhere. They end up getting the play, they get the out, keep Tucker at third, and this is where it can get a little tense, right? Yoshinobu Yamamoto has the go-ahead run only 90 feet away, but then he comes up with Michael Busch. Now, Michael Busch is another very good hitter for the Cubs, doing a phenomenal job during this series, obviously multiple home runs, but gets him in this at-bat with that nasty, nasty splitter, showing a lot of emotion, knowing that he just got out of that jam, and what a performance by Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Continues to go through 6, does a perfect job of keeping the ball away from guys' sweet spots, throwing pitches that look like they're starting in the strike zone and even end up out of the strike zone, but still gets guys swinging, like this ball running in on Dansby Swanson. Phenomenal, phenomenal job from Yoshinobu Yamamoto. On the flip side, we've got Matthew Boyd. Now, Matthew Boyd, once again, kept us scoreless through 5 innings. We obviously cannot just lie down. We cannot have the bats cold. We need to wake up. We're back at home after, once again, not a very good performance in Washington. We've got to get the bats going. We've got to be a little bit better at that. Now, we fast forward to a part in the game where we start building that momentum, and it goes in our favor. We've got the bottom of the 6th inning coming up. Yoshinobu Yamamoto just getting out of that performance that he just gave. And Teoscar Hernandez, the man we wanted back so badly, puts one into left field for a single to get this one started. This is perfect in terms of us building some momentum in this inning at least. We get a single and we build off of it. Teoscar getting the crowd pumped, getting the dugout pumped, and then Freddie Freeman, of course, taking one for the team. Freddie Freeman could have easily backed out of there, but he knows exactly what his job was. Needed to get on base some way, somehow. If that means getting hit in the back, then by all means, May sting a little bit later, but we'll take it. Freddie Freeman on base, and then of course that brings up the big little man, is what I love to call him, Tommy Edman. Tommy Tank with an absolute bomb to left field. Gets right behind this one, puts enough backspin on it. That ball's up, that ball's back, that ball's fair. That ball is out of here. Tommy Edman putting the Dodgers on his back tonight with that big 3-run bomb. Such a hit from Tommy Edman. So of course, this guy has just been off to a hot start and has been staying hot, whether it's been on the offensive side or the defensive side. Tommy Edman did a phenomenal job coming in at a clutch moment, making sure that he saw his pitch, got a very good swing on that. In fact, if I can remember from one of these games, one of the announcers mentioned that they tracked Tommy Edman's swing through all the different cameras and systems that they have in terms of their batting cages and their training facilities. Tommy Edman has one of the most perfect swings on the Dodgers. I'm not sure if that's actually accurate. An announcer was mentioning that in this game. He has one of the best swings in terms of how level he stays, whether it's going to a low pitch, a high pitch, getting backspin on a ball. He has a very, very, very beautiful swing. Yoshinobu Yamamoto's line for tonight was 6 innings pitched, no earned runs, 9 strikeouts, and only 1 walk. Brings his ERA now to 1.23. That, once again, is absolutely phenomenal for Yoshinobu Yamamoto. We're talking about a guy that came from 2024, didn't have the best start, right? Came from Japan, where it's a completely different crowd, completely different atmosphere, and we've seen that with his performances from last year, but then just comes in to this start and gives an absolute lights out performance. Hats off to you, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. However, on the other side, we got Matthew Boyd with a line of 6 innings pitched, 3 earned runs, 7 strikeouts, 3 walks. Looks like Tommy Edman just got the best of Matthew Boyd. Some negatives that I can point out in this game as well is popping the ball up constantly. These guys are just putting the ball in the air and giving guys the easiest out in baseball, which is a pop fly. It's not going to get a bad hop, right? It's not going to just kick left or kick right. It's going straight up in the air, coming back down. Really, the only way you miss a fly ball is if you're playing in the day, which Dodgers don't do a lot of, or you've got a bunch of lights in your face, which doesn't usually happen in major league stadiums. They do a lot of, different ways of making these lights be in certain angles, angled certain ways on the field, so that way they're not going to really interfere with the game with players. So one negative that I can say is just these guys need to keep the ball in play on the ground, maybe even play some small ball. If a home run's not going to work, maybe put a bunt down, just get a guy on. Once again, Freddie Freeman taking that ball off the back. If that's how you're going to get on, that's how you're going to get on. We need base runners. That'll eventually lead to guys getting around the bases all the way home, scoring runs, obviously, the way the game should be played. We cannot do that, of course. The game of baseball, once again, is a game of failure. Ohtani doing a not too great of a job tonight. Smith once again going over. Baez just can't find it, of course. Right now, Baez isn't looking the best. Unfortunately, he is another guy that is coming in and out of the lineup as well. A guy that's just really going cold at certain points. Yes, he had 2 home runs in Washington, but it's just not looking too good right now. And once again, only 3 runs scored. Guys, we cannot only score 3 runs. Yes, once again, like I said before, with a performance like Yoshinobu Yamamoto's, that's fine. We'll get by with 3 runs maybe. But are we going to get this performance every single time? Clearly not. We need to make sure that we keep scoring runs. The Cubs outscored us by so much. I'm talking, it probably is double digits. Another thing I want to point out, Tanner Scott, Kirby Yates, and Blake Trinan all coming in for the relief and doing also a phenomenal job of just keeping the doors shut, making sure these guys do not kick the door down, making sure we do not blow any type of save. Once again, with only 3 runs, it's a very close game. So it's a good job on their behalf to come in and make sure that Yoshinobu Yamamoto gets that win, and we get the win in a shutout for game 1, 3-0. So that wraps up game 1. Let's jump to game 2, where unfortunately things just did not go our way again. We could not put up any runs. In fact, at this point, we get shut out, and it doesn't look good, especially after starting off the series with a win. That, I think, would help us build some momentum to go into game 2 to say we can score even more runs this game. We can get other guys on base. Other guys are going to have their moments, but unfortunately, just wasn't the case. On the mound for us, we've got Roki Sasaki, the Japanese rookie that we wanted so bad this offseason. We ended up getting him, and honestly, has just gotten off to just a slow start. We felt. Rewind back to the game 2 of the Tokyo series where he faced Chicago as well, and unfortunately just didn't have the start he wanted. Fortunately, had 5 walks, and through 3 innings pitched, gave up 56 pitches. Now, it's not the best, right? As a pitcher, you want to keep your pitch count down, especially through 3 innings. That's averaging somewhere about 20 plus pitches an inning, which is honestly not ideal. You want to keep the pitch count down each inning so that way you can keep going back out there, have a lot more energy to throw, So honestly, pitching at the end of the day is tiring, right? Guys are just constantly getting up there. They're the ones probably moving the most out of anybody in the game. They're probably moving throughout the entire game as other guys get a hit, get to sit down at, if they don't get a hit, or if they get a hit and get on base, they get to pause for a little bit. With Roki Sasaki, didn't have a phenomenal start to the season. However, Roki Sasaki actually has been showing a lot of improvement. He comes into this game, doesn't look too bad, and he has his first inning where he doesn't allow really anything to happen. He faces guys like Kyle Tucker, once again, a very, very good hitter for the Chicago Cubs, but gets him to fly out. In fact, Andy Pages with a phenomenal sliding catch in center field to give him the assist. Helps him out there. What a play from Andy Pages. Very good job. And then he comes up against Suzuki, where he gets him to get a little ground ball to shortstop. And at that point, it's 1-2-3 inning. Unscathed, no harm done. Very good start to Roki Sasaki's game. So Ben Brown gets the start for the Cubs actually tonight, and he starts this game with a 1-1 record and a 7.71 ERA to start the game. Now, it's not too bad, right? But at the same time, that's not very good. A 7.71 ERA is a lot of runs. That's probably why he has that 1-1 record. It's not a good way to be starting the season. We go into this bottom half of the first inning, and we build some momentum. Shohei Ohtani getting that single to the right side, looking phenomenal with that hit, and then follows it up with a stolen base. You would think a runner in scoring position, that's going to look great, right? That's a phenomenal way to start the game. We've got some momentum. Freddie Freeman comes up and unfortunately lines out to right field. That was such a big hit though. He looked like he got all of it and unfortunately just hit it right to him. We've got Teoscar Hernandez who also gets on base. Little dribbler over the mound, and it looks like we're building some momentum once again. We've got a guy now in scoring position and even a guy on first base. Let's see what we can do with that in terms of putting a guy in, but unfortunately not. Michael Conforto looking at a pitch too close to the zone with 2 strikes. Guys, we cannot do this. We cannot leave guys in scoring position. As we saw in that inning as well, Mookie Betts popping the ball up. Like I mentioned in game 1, the easiest out in baseball is to pop the ball up. You got to be able to hit line drives. You got to be able to hit ground balls, put the ball in play, just like Teo did. There's a good comparison right there. The fact that Teoscar Hernandez put the ball on the ground wasn't a hard hit, but he got on base compared to Mookie Betts, who put the ball up, gave it right to him, a layup of an out, and unfortunately, once again, that's just not going to be the best way to play the game. So now we're in the top half of the second inning, and unfortunately, this is where Roki Sasaki gets a little rocky, right? Unfortunately, he gives up this big home run to Michael Busch, who, by the way, is probably one of the best hitters on the Cubs as well. Just like Kyle Tucker can put the ball in play, can also get big hits like this home run. So Michael Busch with that big home run in the second inning, then follows it up by getting 3 big outs from Dansby Swanson, Nico Horner, and none other than the former Dodger, Justin Turner. That's a great way to follow up with a home run, right? A guy that really doesn't show too much emotion out there, just kind of collects himself and understands that, all right, I still need to get 3 outs. He did get that home run with no outs, so he's probably standing there saying, I need to get these 3 outs. And ends up doing a phenomenal job of doing just that and gets out of that inning with just 1 run. Now, here's another negative of this game. The Dodgers need to build some momentum off of this. The fact that it's just 1 run, guys, that's not that big of a dent. That's not that big of a scrape. And we just cannot put any runs up on the board following that. We still end up trying to get guys on base. Guys are trying to get hits, things like that, but we just cannot get them around the bases to score. And unfortunately, that is really what's hurting us at the end of the day. Guys, we cannot keep the bats cold. The bats got to be hot. The bats got to be hot. Yes, I understand that right now it probably is a very difficult time for the Dodgers, right? The Dodgers being in the media all over the place and doing a lot of things. I understand that they may even feel some tiredness from the fact that they went to Tokyo, came all the way back to start the season off in LA. Then they had to go to Washington where they met the President of the United States at the White House. They've been on the road. They came back. They've had back-to-back series. Really, I think they've had 1 day off in the past 2 series, 3 series. That's just a lot of baseball to start off. And of course, they are champions, and that's kind of what they get, right? They are champions, so now they got to face all the media, all the people talking to them about being the most perfect team and things like that. So this could be starting to get to them a little bit. So Roki Sasaki doing a great job in this game of only really giving up that 1 run, right? He didn't have the best start in Tokyo, didn't do the best against the Cubs, but then comes back in this game, only gives up 1 home run. And in fact, his line for the end of the night is 5 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 earned run, and only 2 walks. So once again, he went from 5 walks the first time he faced the Cubs to now only 2. That is definitely an improvement. Once again, a guy coming from a completely different environment, a completely different country. A whole lot of things factor into him coming over to the US and playing baseball in the major leagues. So him having the performance he did, he is showing some improvement, right? He is showing a lot of things that could get a lot better for him. So Roki Sasaki, hats off to you for a better performance. Once again, it's not an ideal performance in terms of giving up a run, but that'll get better throughout the season. You know, his walks will definitely go down. I see a lot of potential in the kid. He looks like he wants it. I mean, we saw that start where he was unfortunately showing some emotion, crying in the dugout. In my opinion, yes, I see the fight, the you know, the want that he has in him. However, he's got to be a little bit better at controlling his emotions, like he did getting those 3 outs against Swanson, Turner, and Horner. So here's a part in the game where I want to point out where it's just a lot of good teamwork in this play. Unfortunately, Roki Sasaki left the ball up for this guy, Michael Busch. Michael Busch, once again, being those bigger hitters for the Cubs, gives up this ball higher up in the zone, hits a ball to center field, but Andy Pages with such a phenomenal catch in center field, putting on a defensive clinic in this game. I mean, what a catch from Andy Pages, stealing another home run, what could have been another home run from Michael Busch. Of course, that's the 3rd out of the inning, and that should have been the momentum builder, right? To go into this bottom half of the inning and be like, all right, we're keeping us in this game. We're making plays. We're giving up our bodies to make these plays to get the outs. But unfortunately, once again, the Dodgers just cannot find it. They cannot get the bats hot. They stay cold all the way through this entire game. There's moments where they try to get on base, can possibly get base hits. However, I do want to point out a very good play on this one as well. Once again, we're Dodger fans and all of us bleed blue, but I got to give my hat off to Kyle Tucker on this phenomenal rob of a diving play from Mookie Betts in right field. He robs Mookie Betts of this single, possibly even a double or triple, with a phenomenal catch in right field. Kyle Tucker, hats off to you for that play. So Roki Sasaki not having too bad of a start, right? Only allowing 1 run, but then we bring in the reliever, Ben Casparius, and unfortunately, this is where it all goes just downhill. He opens up the floodgates. The Chicago Cubs kick the door in on him, and that is where it just gets really bad for him. Now, unfortunately, in this game, when this starts happening, what I think it could have potentially been, and of course, this could be completely wrong. In the comments, let me know if I am right or wrong. But I think what was going on was Casparius kind of had to play a role of just kind of taking it. We rewind back to 2024 season when we had Brett Honeywell out there, and Brett Honeywell, a lot of games would save guys in the bullpen, right? What he would do was, if he was getting hit, rocked, he just had to stay in there and take it. He had to keep getting hit. Why? To save arms in the bullpen. We had 3 relievers in game 1, and then we go into game 2 where we only have Casparius and Luis Garcia. We only bring in the 2 relievers, and then at the end of the game, we bring in none other than the big shortstop Miggy Rowe. In fact, having some fun with it, imitating some pitching stances from Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Clayton Kershaw, having a good time with it out there. And in my opinion, this isn't bad, right? We're already at 16-0. You guys want to cry about Miguel Rojas coming in later on in the game, talking crap about that, yet we have 9 other guys in the lineup that should have did something about this. When they only had a 1-0 lead on us, all they had was 1 run, and we could not score. But everyone wants to complain about Miggy Rojas coming in at the end of the game and saving arms in the bullpen. In fact, that's probably a smarter decision, in my opinion. And early enough in the season to where we don't need to worry about guys not scoring. If they've already scored 16 runs, what can we do at that point, right? We'd rather save the arms. Dodgers, we need to show some type of life. We cannot get 5 runs in a series. 5 runs in a series will never, ever do good for any team, unless you got Yoshinobu Yamamoto giving this performance all 3 games, which didn't look like the case in this series, unfortunately. I know we're a little tired right now. This is the beginning half of 162, but once again, everybody's going out there to see these guys perform. The Dodgers are in the media because they are the 2024 World Champions. So now that means that they have to perform like they're going to be the 2025 World Champions. They cannot give these performances. It's just not Dodger baseball. That's my opinion at the end of the day. Unfortunately, we lose this one 16-0. The Cubs make it now 1-1 even in the series. So here we are, 1-1 apiece. Now, you would think the Dodgers, once again, would want to build some momentum off of that, right? If we've got a 1-1 tie, let's try to at least take the series. If we can't take a sweep, we're still at home. Let's try to build some momentum going into game 3, and let's try to take this game from them. Let's try to take the whole series. If we can't take the sweep, let's just take the 2 out of 3. But unfortunately, once again, we just cannot get hot in terms of the offense. Let's jump into game 3, where unfortunately things still didn't really go our way. However, we showed a little bit more improvement in this game in terms of getting a little bit more hits, actually putting up some runs on the board, but not enough to get the job done, right? So in game 3, we got our starting 9. At the top, we've got Ohtani at DH, Betts at shortstop, Edman in center field. So this is a game, unfortunately, where Andy Pages really didn't have it, right? Unfortunately, he did not have it in the previous game in terms of the offense. Defense is phenomenal, but if we cannot put up any runs, then this is really not going to mean nothing. So looks like Pages has to sit out a game. Teoscar Hernandez in right field, Michael Conforto in left, Will Smith back behind the plate. We've got Max Muncy back at third base. Once again, Max Muncy just off to a very cold start. However, had a moment in this game where he looked like he was showing some life, looked like he could have gave us some momentum, right? But we've got Max Muncy at third, Kike Hernandez at first base, and we've got Miguel Rojas at second base. Now, I'm not really sure why Freeman was taken out of the lineup. I'm not sure if his ankle was bothering him a little bit or if we just wanted to give him a day off, but it looks like we've got Kike Hernandez at first base for this game. Santa Clarita local, the guy from Hart High School, Tyler Glasnow gets to start with a 1-0 record going into this game and starting the game with a 6.43 ERA. Tyler Glasnow, phenomenal pitcher, one of my favorites, came in last year. In fact, before he got that injury, was leading the league in strikeouts at one point. He was doing such a phenomenal job in the 2024 season, and unfortunately it was just cut short by that injury. So he comes into this game as our starter. So a positive I want to point out is in the bottom half of the second inning, we got hot early, right? We drew first blood. In fact, Michael Conforno gets a single and follows up with a Will Smith single where Michael Conforno shows some very good aggressiveness, gets all the way to third base into scoring position. He could have been at scoring position at second base, but realized he only needed to be 90 feet away to get this job done. So he puts the burners on and gets all the way to third base. Unfortunately, that follows up with a Max Muncy strikeout. Looking very cold up at the plate, but then it's followed up by Kike Hernandez's single, which ends up scoring Michael Conforno. And there we go. We draw first blood early. That's how we want to do it, right? We want to draw first blood. We want to get on the board early, and that was a great way to do it. Kike Hernandez, great job to get that run in, and the Dodgers take a 1-0 lead over the Cubs. Unfortunately, that's where we stop. One run, and after that, Colin Ray goes for 3 more innings and completely shuts us down for those 3 innings. The relievers that come in after him do the same thing. I will bring up that the way this one run ends up scoring in the bottom half of the 6th inning, right? We got 2 guys on base. Will Smith ends up getting into scoring position, and Max Muncy actually showing something in terms of this hit. It's a deep hit into right field. It almost goes over the wall, but they catch the ball at the warning track, and it ends up scoring that runner from third base. We at least get a run off of that. So at least Max Muncy's showing some life, right? Showing that he can at least hit the ball far, but it's got to be a little bit more consistent for Max Muncy. And that was definitely a positive from this game, was that showing that Max Muncy's showing a little bit of improvement in terms of his swing, but still could not really get much done today. 1 RBI, not bad. I'll take it. Max Muncy, have a day. Speaking of having a day, once again, we're Dodger fans here. I bleed blue all the way, but I got to give credit where credit's due in this game as well. Pete Crow Armstrong, the Sherman Oaks local, the man that went to Harvard Westlake with 2 bombs and a triple, in fact, in this game. He had a phenomenal game at the plate. The fact that he is a local from Los Angeles, that's off to you, Pete Crow Armstrong. Have a day, kid. So, of course, some negatives in this game. Unfortunately, Tyler Glasnow really not having the start that we hoped. Wasn't terrible, only gave up those 2 runs. However, those are 2 big runs. Trinan and Vesia, unfortunately, Trinan coming off of just 1 day of a break, getting that relief in game 1, and unfortunately gives up a bomb in this game as well. Doesn't look too good for him. Vesia as well, giving up a run. The relievers really not being able to stop the bleeding. Any pitcher that's going to come in and relieve somebody, they cannot allow things to keep happening, right? We've got to stop the bleeding. We've got to stop the runs from coming in. We've got to keep them at bay, maybe at 1-2 runs at best, so that way we can keep scoring runs. But even 1-2 runs for us today probably still wouldn't have been enough, and we still dropped this game, unfortunately, 4-2. The Dodgers dropped the 3rd series in a row. Unfortunately, this is not looking too good right now for LA. It is earlier on in the season. However, I will bring up again, this is the Los Angeles Dodgers, right? The 2024 champions, the $1 billion spending team in the offseason, the guys that pick up all these different guys, the guys that are considered cheaters, the guys that are considered the guys to be ruining baseball, right? They are all over the media in terms of being the team. Fortunately, with performances like this shows, they're not the team right now. They are not the team. They unfortunately have the 2nd lowest runs batted in the major leagues right now. That is a huge stat to have. That is very bad to have. These guys are not looking good right now in terms of offense. In the series together, Dodgers scored 5 runs. The Chicago Cubs scored 20 runs. Like I mentioned in the last video, every last team is coming to play this team like it is Game 7 of the World Series. And I'll tell you right now, the Chicago Cubs showed up like it was Game 7 of the World Series. They did not let up. They did not take their foot off the Dodgers' necks. They kept them on the ground and did not allow them to do much. So Tyler Glasnow again, 6 innings pitched, 3 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, 7 Ks, brings his ERA now to 4.85. So didn't look too good for us today. Unfortunately, we dropped the ball. I will say the pitching aspect of this looks a lot better. Yoshinobu Yamamoto having a phenomenal game 1 performance. We've got Roki Sasaki, who came off a really rough start in terms of this 2025 season to now showing some improvement, less walks, more strikeouts, getting more outs, throwing more strikes. In fact, for the first time in his rookie career, he goes 5 innings. He completes 5 complete innings and only allows in those 5 innings 1 earned run. That says something about a rookie who was struggling a lot at the beginning half of this season. Once again, it still is the beginning half, but the fact that he's already showing improvement, who knows what he can do by the time we get to the All-Star break. So that concludes the series for tonight. Dodgers lose this series again, 2-1 to the Cubs. And that's not looking the best. So we head into the next series where we have the Rockies. By the time this video hits YouTube, game 1 will already be completed, but we have Dustin May facing off against, sorry if I'm pronouncing his name wrong, but Sensatella of the Colorado Rockies. Hopefully we can get off to a good start. Let's get a win out of that game. Let's see if we can start this series off right. We've got the Colorado Rockies, considered the worst team in the NL right now, considered probably one of the lower half teams of baseball. Haven't had any seasons in terms of any championships recently or any even playoff runs. So hopefully we can take the weak link out, right? Knock this team out completely. Let's try to pile up runs on these guys and not let so many runs come in, not blow games like the way we did this series. Guys, we've got to do better in terms of Dodger baseball. We've got to have better opportunities at the plate. We've got to make the opportunities happen. If we can't get all these home runs, if we can't have a walk-off every single time, a bunt will do. Man, maybe even a squeeze play will do at the plate. But we need to make sure that we're producing runs, that we are scoring runs, because that is obviously the only way that we can win a ball game. So that concludes tonight's episode of the Blue Dugout Podcast. Give a like if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. This is Chris Pacheco wishing you a very pleasant afternoon wherever you may be.